In this video, we're going to talk about veteran funeral benefits. What's free, what's not, and how to apply. My name is Alphonse.
And I'm Mio.
And we together have helped thousands of families in the United States plan for their funerals. For someone who doesn't know what a veteran is.
Veteran, someone who served their country, and they're entitled to certain funeral and burial benefits. So you might not know this, but there are veteran cemeteries, and some of them are large, and many of them are beautiful, and they're where all the veterans are buried. And they're all very uniform, they're all very orderly, and that's the way we show respect to our veterans, by taking care of them after they die. So if you're a veteran, you've been honorably discharged, that's an important note. You're entitled to a grave, a vault, and the service at the graveside, and a gravestone. So whether or not you're buried or you're cremated in an urn, you can be placed at a veteran cemetery. That's also true for your spouse. So you can always be buried together. So it's not that you have to be separated. So that's important. People don't know that. Every funeral home is going to ask you whether or not the person was a veteran. So in that case, they're going to ask you if you want to have military honors. You can have military honors even without being buried at a veteran cemetery. So that's important to know. There's a lot of details in terms of the reimbursements too, and for that we're going to link you to the VA's website, because I think you can go over more detailed information, because there's different kinds of veterans, different ranks. Were you a general? Were you a lieutenant? I mean, it really just depends.
So basically, so far we just talked about what's included, and it seems like they're all in the cemetery side, right? So you mentioned a gravestone, a plot, and a vault, right?
Correct.
So all they have to pay for if they're going to bury is the opening and closing.
Well, that's actually part of their labor fee. So there's no cemetery fees with the VA. The only thing you have to pay for is a funeral home to prepare the person. You might have to buy a casket, and you're going to have to pay for transportation costs to get to the cemetery. So there will need to still be a licensed funeral director that will oversee the whole process. But it does end up saving thousands upon thousands of dollars to the family. And unfortunately, in a lot of cases, people might not live close to a VA cemetery, so it might not make sense for them to be buried there. And in that case, the transportation costs could be significant. But it's important to know that you are entitled to these benefits, and for all the problems with our country, we still do this right by our veterans.
And there are exceptions, right, for the benefits. Like if someone passed away during while active in the military, they do cover for everything, correct?
Yes, and and that's why I said it's important to go and specifically see where and when your loved one served, in what capacity. Even if they were part of the National Guard and they never actually saw battle, as long as they're discharged, they're still entitled to these benefits, honorably, of course. If you're a spouse of a military veteran and they were getting some kind of pension or disability, they can oftentimes pay that to the spouse after the funeral. So that there's paperwork and things that need to be filed with the VA, but that can also be claimed.
So then, in order to claim the veterans benefits, what's the documents that people need?
Well, the big one is you need your DD-214. That's your honorable discharge paper. Or if you have a certificate, there's sometimes just a separate discharge certificate. A lot of that is done by the funeral home. They should coordinate that for you, and the honor guard. They will schedule that and order that for you. You just need to provide those documents to the funeral home, and they'll take it over from there. You shouldn't have to deal with that. A good funeral home will make sure they coordinate it all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just the DD-214. Now,
we stress this in a lot of our videos, the importance of pre-planning. This is another part that you could pre-plan. You can actually get pre-qualified to be buried in a veteran cemetery. You'll get a letter from the VA so that it's not there's no confusion that they already have your discharge paperwork. They already basically said you're permitted to be buried here, and that's just another part of pre-planning that should be part of it when you meet with the funeral home. They should tell you about that, and they should be encouraging you to do that.
Okay.
Sometimes also I want to say that if you're buried in like Arlington Cemetery, or one of the more famous VA cemeteries, shall we say, Sometimes that can be a wait time of 6 months to a year just to get buried, in which case a lot of funeral homes are going to charge you to hold the deceased under their care. They're going to have to be embalmed, potentially held in refrigeration. So those costs can rack up pretty high depending how long. There are other veteran cemeteries, though, where they can get you in a matter of weeks. And that's why I say pre-qualifying as part of the pre-arrangement process is so important.
I believe that's all that we needed to cover for this video, and I hope this video helped you navigate veteran benefits, what's there, and we'll see you on the next one.